Coming into the season, the Braves and Dodgers were viewed by many to be the two best teams in all of baseball. And now those two teams are going to match up to begin the month of May. Got Jeff Snider of Locked On Dodgers coming on to preview this big series. We'll do all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast at LockedOn_Braves. Subscribe to YouTube if you're new. Over 10,000 subscribers there, so thank you so much for all your support. Hit the thumbs up button on this video. If you're listening on audio, please leave me a 5-star review wherever you listen to Locked On Braves. And thank you so much for your support here on the podcast. If you're an everydayer, let me know down in the comment section below. Love hearing from you. Today we got a good episode. We're previewing the Dodgers series coming up this weekend. Got Jeff Snider of Locked On Dodgers going to be joining the show to break everything down there between these two great teams. Before we do that, though, I want to let you know that it is game time on Monopoly Go. We got to talk about the fastest growing app out there. The fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends, because who doesn't want to do that? Hopefully we'll be able to taunt Jeff after the series this weekend. So download Monopoly Go, now free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right, well, let's bring in Jeff. I'm excited to have him on to do this. We haven't really, I don't think we've done a podcast for a crossover episode before, but obviously, two great teams in the Braves and Dodgers, many considered to be the favorites coming into the season. So, Jeff, I'm glad to have you on to kind of not just break down this series, we'll talk about it, but really just want to get, thoughts from both sides of this battle of what should be, again, a really fun one to watch this weekend, but just how the series or the season plays out as well. And hopefully these two teams match up in the postseason again. It felt like we were matching up for a while, year after year in the postseason. And then now the last 2 years where I think they've been the two better teams in baseball, hadn't been able to make it out of that first round. But Jeff, glad to have you on to discuss the Braves and Dodgers here.
Yeah, it should be fun. Last year, was the year that it really should have been them. And everybody, when they played in the regular season, it was always, this is the NLCS preview. And then, that didn't quite work out for either team. So, hopefully this year, at least my team, I don't care if the Braves make it, but hopefully the Dodgers make it at least. So, do our part, because last year was a little bit disappointing for both sides.
Yeah. So let's just get into that, because coming into the season, these were tabbed as the two best teams in baseball. I think the Braves were the favorite early on in the offseason. And then obviously with all the moves that the Dodgers made, they kind of overtook them for the betting odds, at least if you look at FanDuel. And I believe that's still the case, where the Dodgers are the favorite there, with the Braves second behind them. And Jeff, now that we're a month into the season, do you still believe that to be the case, at least for the Dodgers? Do you still think they're the favorites to win the World Series? From what you've seen so far, have they earned that label as best team in baseball?
It's kind of interesting how the betting odds differ from the projections, because I don't think the Dodgers were ever ahead of the Braves in the projections. But the betting odds, because it was a big flashy offseason for the Dodgers, and that gets the attention of the fans and everything. And yeah, I do think the Dodgers are a very good team. I don't think that I would necessarily say they're the favorites, because I don't really know what that means, mostly because in the postseason, like we saw last year, and almost, as Dodger fans, unfortunately, we see it almost every year. Doesn't matter if you're the best team in baseball, you get to the postseason, and if you hit a cold stretch or somebody else hits a hot stretch, you can get knocked out. And so as far as regular season, like 162 games where depth and overall quality matters, yeah, I think the Dodgers are among the top 2 or 3 teams in baseball, at least. And I expect them to finish the season with one of the best records in baseball, and then hope that they head into October healthy, and, that Mookie Betts, the good version of Mookie Betts, shows up in the postseason. The good version of Freddie Freeman shows up in the postseason. And we've never seen Shohei Ohtani in the postseason. Don't know what version of him we'll get, but that's kind of all. I've kind of made peace with the fact that all I can really do as a fan is enjoy the 162 and hope that things work out in October.
You sound just like me, and you sound just like Braves fans with what we've
We've
gone
been
through the past
defeated,
2
Jake,
years. It is, and it's tough for me as a fan, and I keep trying to tell myself, 162 is what matters. It's what you should enjoy, and you get to the postseason and you just see what happens. And look, that is the case, but it still hurts when you get to the postseason and you're better than this, and you get knocked out in the first round. I want to come back to that, but I did just want to touch on the FanDuel odds real quickly. The Dodgers are the favorite to win the World Series at plus 320. The Braves are second at plus 450, followed by the Yankees, Phillies, and Orioles further down. But it is funny because you look at their odds for the best regular season record, and the Braves are the favorite at plus 150 with the Dodgers right behind them at plus 200. So kind of backs up what you're talking about, where the projections maybe have the Braves winning more games, but the Dodgers to win the World Series. Maybe we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but you kind of led me in this direction. I want to talk about it anyway, because I think we're the two teams that have really felt this the most the last couple of years with this new postseason format. But for the past 2 years, the Braves have gone in there as, one of those buys, as has the Dodgers, and that 5-game layoff, they have just come out flat, and they played a really good Phillies team. I don't want to take anything away from the Phillies, who are, in my opinion, right there behind the Braves and Dodgers as those top teams in baseball. So it's been a tough matchup. They've had to go up in the NLDS. But Jeff, I want to get your take on it, because I know I've talked about it a lot, and I feel like just from what you said, we're kind of on the same page. But how do you feel about this postseason format and how it's affecting those top seeds getting that bye and getting that layoff?
Yeah, I don't love it. I don't know if 2 years is enough to say for sure that is the problem. It could be a 2-year fluke. And like you said, the Phillies are a good team. The D-backs got hot at the right time last year. It wasn't just the Dodgers that they beat. They played really well. They ended up, making the World Series. And so, it could be the layoff. But, also that means you have a chance to set up your rotation. You're rested. I do think there ought to be more. My ideal wild card series would be 3 games in 2 days.
Yep.
And then no day off before the start of the NLDS, because then it's only a 2-day break for the teams that win the division, and, allows you to set up your rotation somewhat. Hopefully, I think both of us expect to win the division by enough games that we can set up the rotation in the last week of the season, so that you would be ready to start your top starter whenever the NLDS starts. And, if they did, okay, season ends on Sunday, doubleheader on Monday, and then if necessary, game 3 on Tuesday, and then NLDS starts on Wednesday. And that way it eliminates some of that gap, that break that maybe turns into rust, and it punishes, because then it gives more benefit to winning the division, because then you go into, if you win your division and get a bye in the wild card round, like the Dodgers and Braves expect to, you go in knowing there's a good chance that the team you're playing just had to use their 3 top starters in the last 2 days. I think that's the view of a guy who's a fan of a team that expects to be one of the teams getting the bye. And so I get that, but I think Major League Baseball has, by design, set up the postseason to be more of a crapshoot. I think they want more teams to feel like they have a chance. And so I don't think anything's going to change, because I think, as far as MLB is concerned, it's a good thing when, maybe not to have the Dodgers and Braves both lose in the NLDS last year, but having other teams feeling like they have a chance at least.
Yeah, I think it does create some sort of chaos, and I think that's good for Major League Baseball. But I think the World Series ratings last year, TV-wise, were some of the worst in a long time. And I think it's because, a lot of people didn't feel like the best teams were there. No discredit to the Rangers, who I think were a really good team, but I feel like that's kind of part of it. But we are sitting here as two teams who have not benefited from it the last 2 seasons, and are obviously looking for some type of change. But I do agree with you that that time frame has to be shortened up, because really it comes down to the benefit for the bye team is game 1. And if you don't win game 1, then all of a sudden you're facing Zach Wheeler in game 2. It's just, it's not as much of a benefit as I think it should be for teams, because you do have the layoff, which gives you a little bit of rust for your hitters. You are able to set up your rotation, but it's really just for that game 1. And then in game 2, because of the long break that you have, you're facing the team's number 1 against your number 2 in that game 2. And then there's an off day after that, allowing even more time for them to set up their rotation. So again, we're kind of crying wolf here, but I think there does need to be some kind of changes there. I want to get back though to the Dodgers. Obviously, what concerns you the most about this team going forward? Maybe something you've seen in this first month, or maybe some concerns you had coming into the season. I know they're obviously a really good team, but what concerns do you have?
The bullpen is always a concern, pretty much every year, probably for all 30 teams. And the Dodgers this year, the bullpen has struggled at times. The last couple of weeks, they've been pretty good, and no coincidence. I think that's because the starting pitching is starting going deeper in games. We saw that last year. The Dodgers had one of the worst bullpens in baseball the first half of the season, and then the best bullpen in baseball the second half. And the determining factor was starters getting deeper in the game, so the relievers weren't overworked. You can kind of pick and choose who you're using in what spots a little bit more when your starters are giving you 6 or 7 innings. And so that's what I'm hoping for. Overall, and then my lingering concern, just as a snake bit Dodger fan, is eventually the offense not showing up. Like, there's always that lingering concern of what's the offense going to do in October. I don't have a ton of concerns for the regular season, honestly. I think the Dodgers are going to win the National League West by 15 or so games, and but the October will always be a concern until it stops being a concern.
Yeah, no, I think Braves fans kind of feel that, even though, we do have a little bit more recent World Series. The Dodgers just 1 year later, but still, it's been a concern for Braves fans for what we
do. Braves know a little bit about winning the division every year and hardly ever winning the World Series. It's
yeah. Look, and it kind of goes back to what we kind of started off talking about. I do enjoy the 162, and I think that's meaningful and should be that you get the opportunity every year. But certainly fans want it to happen more than 2 times in my lifetime when they've had so many opportunities to get there. I know it's a similar spot for the Dodgers with where they've been for the last decade or so now, getting to the postseason. So that's obviously the goal for both of these two teams and where they want to get to and what their hopes are and should be. And it's a great place for a fan, I think, to be in, where that is your goal each and every year, to get to the World Series. So hopefully we'll get an NLCS matchup between these two teams this year to see how that will play out, as I think these are two of the best teams in baseball. Like I said, I think the Phillies are close third in that, but I still think the Braves and Dodgers are right there at the top. Next, going to flip things over, let Jeff ask me some questions about the Braves, and we'll do all of that here next. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. We talked about the World Series odds earlier, where the Dodgers right now are the favorite, but you look at the regular season win totals, and the Braves are the favorite right now on FanDuel. You can check all that out at FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. Also visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, I need you to listen up for a second here. I got a big announcement. I've been tracking the leaderboards every day, keeping my eye on the scores, putting all my heart into it, and I'm super pumped to announce I am finally at the top. Of course, I'm talking about the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great mobile twist on the classic Monopoly, which you can play anywhere, anytime. And judging from my listeners that let me know in the comment section every day how much they enjoy this game, I think you will as well. Explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Las Vegas to Camelot to the moon, all while raking in a huge fortune. Change rent on iconic properties or charge rent on iconic properties just like the classic Monopoly game, or go after your friends' money by pulling bank heists and taking wrecking balls to their landmarks. My favorite part is the leaderboards here. We're talking about the Braves and Dodgers here. We're hoping they're at the top of the leaderboards all year long, and you can see that as well when you play Monopoly Go. So get yourself on the charts today. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store and Google Play. All right, Jeff, getting back into our conversation here, I want to turn things over to you and let you fire away some questions to me about the Braves.
Yeah, I watch some Braves games. You know as well as I do, when you do a daily podcast about a team, you're spending 3 hours a day watching your team and a lot more time thinking about your team, not a lot of time to watch other teams. So I've probably only seen 3 or 4 Braves games so far this year, and maybe none of them in their entirety. Luckily, we are on opposite coasts, and so I do often have the opportunity to turn on a Braves game when I'm just twiddling my thumbs waiting for the Dodgers to start. I live in Utah, so my Dodger games don't start till 8:00 my time, and so it's I have time to watch some Braves game once in a while. And I wonder. I guess my first question is Ronald Acuna broken, or is he going to be okay?
I mean, that's a good question. You would have said 2 weeks ago, I'd have said I'm not concerned in the slightest. I think he'll turn it around and figure it out. But we're looking at a month now of at bats where he just doesn't look like Ronald Acuna Jr. Now, I still am not completely concerned or worried. I think the talent will play out and he'll get things going. But the obvious thing right now, he's always had a hole up and in. It's why he gets pitched up and in a lot. It's why he gets hit up there a lot. It's why he gets so frustrated a lot, because pitchers have to throw him in there because it's the one spot that you can get him. And he is really struggling with that right now. He is struggling with high velocity up in the zone, particularly up and in, and he just hasn't made the adjustment. And he's also just not making pitchers pay when they're missing that spot as much. So I think it's more of just a mechanical thing. He's got to be able to show pitchers that he can get to that pitch, at least foul it off. But I mean, there have been times here recently where pitchers are missing their spots and they're throwing 94, 95 right over the middle of the plate, and Ronald's just fouling them back or even missing them. And so that is concerning, but it's not concerning in a way that I think it's going to hold. It's just concerning that it's taken this long for him to figure that out and make that mechanical adjustment to get back to it. He's still getting on base a ton. He's still, I think, almost scored 30 runs. He's still stolen 13 bases. So he's doing what a traditional leadoff hitter should do, on base percentage around 400. The only thing really missing for him right now is just that power, which makes him so special and makes him that MVP player. And I think a lot of it just has to do is again, whether it's mechanical or the timing's just off a little bit, he's not able to get to those fastballs and he's not able to square them up. The barrel rate is way down right now, but I do think obviously he'll figure that out. It is just 1 month, but we're not used to seeing Ronald go this long other than when he was coming off the ACL injury. We're not used to seeing him going this long and just not showing that power.
Yeah, you don't think of Ronald Acuna, even though he is a leadoff guy. You don't think of him as the just OBP and stolen bases kind of guy. He's not generally Juan Pierre. So, but probably it will be a case where my guess is he'll hit 2 home runs in a game, and that'll just flip the switch on the confidence, and he'll start punishing those mistakes. And hopefully that won't start this weekend. I guess we'll see. Marcell Ozuna, is he like? I have a hard time believing that he's as good as he is. Do you expect? I mean, I don't know if anybody would expect him to keep a 187 OPS plus for the whole season. But do you think Marcell Ozuna has decided he wants to be an MVP contender this year?
I do think he is good again. I don't think he's an MVP candidate. Obviously, being a DH, that's going to hurt him unless you're Shohei Ohtani. But I do think he is a good hitter once again. And look, he was bad for 2.5 years. He had a bunch of stuff happening off the field as well as part of that. And I think the Braves were very close to just cutting ties and dropping him altogether. And then starting this time last year, around the beginning of May, he really started to make some adjustments. And what has me confident that Ozuna can be a good hitter once again, like I said, not in 1,000 OPS, but maybe 850 OPS type of guy, 35 home runs, batting in this Braves lineup, I think he can get to 100 runs batted in. He's become more of a well-rounded hitter where he will take his walks. Go to the game on Wednesday. He took a bases-loaded walk, a really good at bat, took some tough pitches, fouled off some tough pitches, and worked a walk. He also will take his singles. He'll shoot one the other way. And if you come inside on Marcell, he is the best in baseball at pulling his hands in and just destroying inside pitches. So he still has that elite power. Yes, there's still a hole in his swing down in a way that you can get him out, but I think he's done a much better job of just becoming a more well-rounded player, where in the past, like even before last year, I said, if you give him 500, 600 at bats, he'll still hit you 300 home run, or sorry, not 300. That would be amazing. He'd hit 30 home runs.
I think that would be a record.
Yeah. I still think he could be a 30 home run hitter, but he wouldn't give you much in between. He wouldn't give you the walks. He wouldn't give you, just taking his singles, putting the ball in play. It just wasn't great at bats in between those 30 home runs. But now you're seeing a more complete hitter. So I don't think he's going to be an MVP type of player. It's been an awesome start that he's off to, but we're now looking at a year of production where he's just been a more well-rounded player.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I don't know, maybe he shouldn't be punished for being a DH because I've seen him play the outfield, and I think he should get extra credit for stop doing that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. If we can't see him back out there again, that will be all fine with me.
Probably best for baseball. Last question. The starting pitching, the three starters the Dodgers are going to see this weekend: Charlie Morton, Bryce Elder, and Max Fried. Bryce Elder, from what I know about Bryce Elder, and tell me if I'm wrong, he seems to be a guy who uses magic tricks instead of getting guys out to keep his ERA low. Like his ERA is always like 18 runs lower than his FIP. What's the deal with that?
So he is somebody that he has to have command. He probably even needs to get a little bit off the edges away. And he is all three of these guys you're going to see this weekend are pitch to contact pitchers. I wouldn't have said that about Charlie Morton coming into the season, but he seems to be changing things up a little bit more, or he is pitching more to weak contact. Max Fried is a weak contact specialist. That worries me against the Dodgers lineup that makes a lot of hard contact and doesn't really give in to that weak contact. But Bryce Elder in particular, he's got a good sinker, he's got a good slider, got a good changeup, but he has to be able to get ahead in the count, and he has to be able to get hitters to expand the zone and swing at those pitches just off in order to get that weak contact, something that, again, worries me against this Dodgers lineup that's not going to chase a lot. But that really is the magic trick for Bryce Elder. He has really good movement on his pitches. It's not high velocity. He's not going to blow you away, but if he can command it and, like I said, keep it on the edges and get hitters to chase a little bit off the plate, then he can be very effective. But if you're patient with him and you wait till he has to come in the zone with that sinker, you can absolutely crush him, as we saw in the second half of last season.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see because the Dodgers do hit the ball pretty hard. And so having three guys, like Charlie Morton has the highest strikeout rate of these guys, and his strikeout rate is just slightly above league average. It'll be interesting to see how that goes as if the Dodgers can make the Braves pitchers pay. I look at Bryce Elder's strikeout rate, 12.2%, and seems like it's going to be hard for him to dominate a Dodgers team if he can't get some strikeouts.
Oh, no, definitely agree with that. It's going to be a tough matchup for him. You're going to need some great defense behind him. And like I said, he's going to have to get that Dodgers team to chase a little bit off the plate, or at least have an umpire that's going to give him some off the edges a little bit in order for him to be effective. We got more I want to talk about the Braves and Dodgers. I got some other questions I want to ask Jeff here. We'll get into the rest of those here next. Spring training is over. We're now a month into the baseball season, so don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries, whether it's strikeouts, RBI, or first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members, and it is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks has something for every sports fan out there, whether it's basketball, NBA, NHL, or baseball, as we like here. You want to open up your PrizePicks app on a Friday. You'll have some pitcher strikeout totals in there for Charlie Morton, for Gavin Stone. Just pick more or less on those. Or if you want to get on the hitter side, I'm sure there'll be some more or less categories to pick for, from Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Ron Acuna Jr., Austin Riley, all of that. You can check it out on your PrizePicks app. And again, it's just really simple. Pick 2 to 6 players or groups of players and decide if you think they'll go more or less. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. All right, Jeff, so let's wrap up this conversation here. I want to come back to you. I got another question that I wanted to ask, and really just want to get your perspective from the Braves, from an outsider's perspective. That's the one thing that I have a lot of listeners on my podcast ask, is that sometimes they like to hear perspective from teams who don't follow the Braves quite as closely. I know you said earlier you haven't watched a lot of Braves games, and I haven't watched a lot of Dodgers games for those same reasons, but what is kind of just the vibe that you get from this Braves team? Do you consider them a threat? How worried are you about this Braves team?
Yeah, I mean, they're a great team. And to the extent that I worry about anybody other than the Dodgers, yeah, the Braves are a concern. I feel good knowing they only have to play 6 times during the regular season. And, there's only 40% chance that they even meet up in the postseason. And the fact is they've had some back and forths when they met up in the postseason over the last, I guess it's been last 12 years now. They've met 5 times, I think. And so it's the Braves are a really, really good team. I sometimes wonder, like Travis d'Arnaud, the Dodgers had him for a week and he got like 1 at bat. And then he just said, okay, I'm going to learn how to play baseball now, and became one of the best hitting catchers in baseball. You would think that the Braves losing Murphy would have been a big hamper on their offense. And instead Travis d'Arnaud said, don't worry, I'm better than him anyway. And, so I do wonder, so like, I'm not sold on Orlando Arcia as a hitter. I think that when I, in the offseason, as I've tried to look at this Braves team and seeing how the projections for the Braves and trying to make myself feel better. So, okay, but they're not really going to be that good. Arcia is one that I definitely looked at. Like, I don't think he is going to hit as well as he did last year. And then, and I think that's borne out so far this year. He's been kind of league average-ish. But then you look at like Austin Riley and Ronald Acuna have both been league average-ish, and I expect them both to get better, even though I probably expect d'Arnaud to get a little bit worse. I expect Ozuna to get a little bit worse. But all in all, like I feel like what we're seeing from the Braves right now, I think they're going to keep up this performance, even if it's different guys that start contributing and other guys stop contributing as much. But when you've got the depth, that's the thing that both teams have, is a lot of depth. Like, top to bottom, the lineup is, you got good players. And so even when a guy goes through a slump, it's not like the whole team is going to suffer because your 1 star is slumping, because Dodgers and Braves both have a lot more than 1 star.
I think that's what makes these two teams so special. I know it's what I talk about a lot with this Braves lineup, but just the depth that they have 1 through 9. Look, Ronald hasn't been himself, at least power-wise. Austin Riley's off to a slow start. Matt Olson's off to a slow start. They've lost Spencer Strider for the season. Sean Murphy, as you mentioned, is out. And yet this Braves team is 20-9 to begin the year. So that, right there just kind of proves the depth that this team has and how they can overcome some of those injuries. Let's quickly preview the series coming up this weekend. It's Morton versus Gavin Stone Friday, Bryce Elder versus Glasnow on Saturday, Fried versus Paxton on Sunday. Is there a matchup that you feel better about, you feel a little concerned about, and at least on the pitching side of things?
Yeah, I mean, Saturday seems like it has to go the Dodgers' way. That's the one when, if you're the Dodgers, you're circling the series. Okay, we're going to win Saturday. Glasnow is the Dodgers' ace. I think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball.
He is coming off an injury, though, right? Is he okay
it was
there?
Just a cramp. It was, okay. And I could see it on TV, the way he was holding his hand. That wasn't a this hurts. That was, I literally can't open my fingers right now because they're cramping. It was just a humid day in whatever dome, Toronto. And so he cramped up a little bit, but he's fine. They've said there's zero concern there. So yeah, when Glasnow's healthy, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. And I do think that Bryce Elder, without striking guys out, is going to have trouble against this Dodgers lineup. So I kind of circle that one for the Dodgers. And then the other two, I'm a little bit nervous about. I think probably the one I'm most nervous about is Sunday, because I think Max Fried is a very, very good pitcher. And I think James Paxton isn't. And so James Paxton walks way too many dudes. And I'm nervous about Paxton in general. And I'm nervous about Paxton against this Braves lineup. And so I think Friday's game is going to be kind of the big key of, okay, if whoever wins Friday has a really, really good chance of winning the series.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to kind of look at this matchup this weekend, is it really kind of comes down to Friday. And I think whoever wins that game, you feel really good about their chances the rest of the way. I do agree the Saturday one from the Braves vantage point is the one you look at and you worry about. And Bryce Elder, can he get through this Dodgers lineup 2 or 3 times? And going up against Tyler Glasnow. The one on Sunday, like you said, I know Paxton's not having a great season. Max Fried had a slow start, but he has been just unbelievable. Had 6 no-hit innings his last time out, had a complete game shutout his time before that. So he's been really great here lately, seems to be on a roll. So that's the one for the Braves you kind of circle as got to win this one. And then as we mentioned, really just kind of comes down to that Friday matchup. What does Charlie Morton look like? Like I said, a new version of him this year. He's typically been somebody that strikes out a lot of batters, but he's really throwing the curveball more for strikes and getting more weak contact and ground balls on that. And then going up against the young guy in Gavin Stone, who I know has kind of had some ups and downs so far this year for the Dodgers. So should be a lot of fun, obviously, when these two teams match up, two of the best teams on paper, at least in baseball. We'll see if they can get it done in the postseason this time, but definitely two teams that have high aspirations of getting to the World Series and winning the World Series in 2024. So looking forward to seeing what these two teams can do over the weekend. Jeff, thanks so much for doing this crossover with me. Looking forward to it. Hopefully we can do it again. Hopefully maybe we'll do it in the postseason together if these two teams meet up. But looking forward to a great matchup, a great series this weekend at Dodger Stadium. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves and Locked On Dodgers. Make sure you follow both of those YouTube shows, or follow both of them on YouTube, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. But that will do it here for me, Jake Mastriani. Follow me on Shortstop Ball and Jeff Snider at Snydog as well on social media. And we will talk to you next time.